a very wounding story for Rishi Sunak because, as you said, this is really the sort of distinctive hallmark of his premiership, that he wants to be a sort of pro-science, pro-tech. That was that big machinery of government change that he made back in February when he created this new Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. His new Secretary of State, Michelle Donald's actually just gone on maternity leave. He's got an interim there in the shape of Chloe Smith. But one of the things that people in government were saying, somebody was talking just about this today, is that actually one of the things that happens when you move around government departments is it might work in the long run, but actually it leaves quite a big gap while people struggle to make sense of the changes. And, civil servants, we talk about civil servants again, departments get a bit distracted in those circumstances. And I think one of the big gaps for the Prime Minister is he's created this new DSIT department. He's got his department for business and trade under Kemi Badenoch, but he doesn't really have any sort of industrial strategy. Indeed, we had an industrial strategy council that was disbanded. Wasn't really sort of, there's really been a big gap there about what does the government really want to do. And what we're seeing, and I think one of the things that's coming out of science is we're actually seeing really quite aggressive industrial policies, you could just say out and out protectionism, from both the US and the EU at the moment. Much more activist policies, partly under guise of net zero, but also trying to get tech advantage in things like semiconductors, chips, things like that. And the UK really just doesn't seem to have caught up. Plus, I think there's an interesting angle as well coming out of the way in which the CMA took the Activision Microsoft decision.
Competition and Markets Authority.
The Competition and Markets Authority, that businesses aren't yet quite clear how the UK is going to regulate differently after Brexit, and maybe a bit worried that the UK is doing some things there. This is a deal that the EU is, I think, on the verge of approving, but the UK regulator said no. We think this is going to be bad for future competition, future consumers. And so even if it's not bad now, we're projecting forward to the impact on the competitive landscape. And so I think, there's quite a lot of nervousness. There was, before the UK gained these regulatory freedoms, there was a sense that business knew what they were dealing with the EU. They might not always like what they did, but it was a relatively predictable regulator, and a bit of concern that they really didn't quite know where the UK government was going to go. And what the government's not doing, I think, thus far, is a very good job of articulating UK approaches across a whole swathe of issues.
As if that weren't enough for Rishi Sunak, we've also got Priti Patel, the former Home Secretary, essentially accusing him of not articulating clearly enough what he wants the Tory party to be, where he wants it to go, and he's been accused by her of, quote, managed decline of the Tory party. She's going to make that speech at tonight's Conservative Democracy or Democratic Organisation or something like that. It's this new wing of the Boris Johnson must return front. And it says here on the front page of the Independent, or the Eye, should I say, Conservative plotters will discuss the future of Sunak as Patel accuses Tory leadership and MPs of showing nothing but contempt for our foot soldiers. I mean, this is something that he doesn't want to be distracted by, but he has to pay attention to it, doesn't he?
He does, and he probably has to pay a bit more attention than he thought he might because of the local election results last week, because of those losses that were bigger than the number that they tried to manage the expectations would be an absolute sort of, nailed on loss, and with the clear hope that they would then be able to declare victory when the losses came in well under that.